Okay, should we start? Yeah. So I'm going to start this again, but I think I have to say thanks to Chris and James for facilitating and giving me an opportunity to speak to people that I think are doing great work out there. And I'm with Josie Taylor, and she's definitely doing some great work out there. I think it's really important as a parent and as a father. I think it's been groundbreaking, really transformative for me, just by the language I've been around and observed from my own parents, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to read this. This might open it up because you have no idea who positive parenting Josie is at this stage. So anyway, Josie is an expert in her field who completely understands the child-parent dynamic and how best to overcome conflict, whatever age of the child or the problem. And through her workshops and expertise elicits positive lifelong results. So positive parenting, Josie.
Yes.
What does it mean? What does that mean?
What does it mean? So I guess it means parenting positively, so behaving in a positive manner, talking positively. It's not airy-fairy stuff. Often people think, oh, you parent positively, it's very permissive. It's absolutely not. But it's the idea that my line in my business is parenting that feels good, and I think that outlines it really well. So parenting that feels good for us, but also then feels good on our children, has a positive impact on who they are and their behaviour.
Yeah, because again, it's looking at their behaviour at the end of the day that we can then observe and say, okay, their behaviour is a reflection really of our behaviour, right? It
is, absolutely, but also their behaviour is, so when a child misbehaves, it's because they feel bad. So when a child's behaving badly, there's always a reason. So anytime my children misbehave or children I'm teaching are misbehaving, there's something going on. We might not know what it is right at that moment, but through questioning and certain bits of understanding that we can talk about, you can absolutely work out why they're doing what they're doing. It's quite amazing, really.
It is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So what's the background? How did you get to positive parenting? I know you were in positive discipline, and we knew you from Montessori. So
yes.
Let's go back to Montessori.
Okay. So I met you guys back when both of our first children were really little, 18 months old, and I was running a Montessori and toddler baby group. So I was a Montessori teacher, started training about 10 years ago, became a Montessori teacher. And when I did my Montessori training, I came across positive discipline. So positive discipline is a theory, I guess that's the right word, created by a lady called Dr. Jane Nelson, who's a phenomenal human being. She came up with positive discipline, and I use positive discipline, Montessori education, my own little bits, and what is now positive parenting with Josie. But I knew that I wanted to pursue positive discipline and teaching and coaching and inspiring and doing workshops and helping parents when I was young. People would ask me lots of questions. So, Josie, why are you doing it like that? And it wasn't that I didn't have normal challenges like we all have with our kids. It was just that I knew what I was doing. I knew what I would do when they behaved that way. I knew what I would do to help them. So I've never punished. I've never overpraised, never used any of that. Anyway, from doing that, people were asking, oh, can you tell me more? Can I learn more? Then I became a positive discipline facilitator, and that's where it all started. I did a few workshops, which turned into a lot more. Now it is what it is now, and I coach almost every night of the week and in the day. And growing, yeah. Yeah, love it.
So Montessori, so those who don't know, can you explain the philosophy?
Okay, wow. This is a question.
It's like an hour and a half of podcast done now.
So for me, Montessori is very much about understanding the child, understand that all children want to learn when they've been given the right environment. So there's a triangle, there's the adult, there's the child, and there's the environment. And when you give the child the right environment, and the right environment is order, is freedom, is the ability to have access to everything is a big part for me. So children can help themselves rather than things in boxes up high, got to ask a parent, got to ask a teacher. Everything's about being accessible. So the child is free to build their independence, their confidence, and their belief in themselves. They learn through repetition, and they're very free in the environment. Sometimes I've heard people say negative things about Montessori in the sense that, they can just do what they want. They can do what they want with ground rules. So there are rules that are set, ground rules of the environment. They don't cross those ground rules, and they're free in the environment. So they do lots of beautiful activities which create independent children, as you know, because all three of yours have had a Montessori upbringing of some sort. Some at school, some with Katrina.
Yeah, well, Lola and Millie, specifically, didn't they? They were at that Montessori.
They were, yeah. So Montessori is very much about independence and confidence, the big things for me.
Yeah. And from Montessori, so how much of that coaching was outside the Montessori nursery? Were you still doing workshops and one-to-ones in Montessori and that kind of philosophy anywhere?
No. So when I was doing my toddler group, the one that I mentioned that Lola came to, That was where I started teaching positive discipline. So I'd share things with parents. And it was those people in that class that inspired me to take it further, where they'd ask questions and I would help them, and they'd come back the week after and go, wow, that really helped. All that worked, that changed. And that's when I did my training and started doing workshops. I did the workshops initially through the Montessori school. Then they just grew, and then it's very naturally grown. I feel very lucky to be where I'm at without not any effort. Of course I put effort in, but as in no real business plan. It's just happened. And I just passionately believe in what I talk about.
So can you go into deeper positive discipline? I mean, if I had a really difficult child right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like climbing the walls, come down from there, no, come down from there. How do I get them down? How do I stop that kind of
You have to understand
that battle? So it seems like a battle,
a power struggle.
and it shouldn't be a battle, right? Because it should just be a really beautiful relationship between parent and child, right?
So it's not as simple as they're doing this, what do I do? It takes a lot more thought and energy than that. So I could tell you exactly what to say to get your child down from the wall in that 5 minutes. But next time when they're outside on the terrace climbing over, what are you going to do then? It's an ongoing. So if you've got the same behaviours happening in your child, they're trying to tell you something. There's something else going on inside. So for example, I have 3 children, 9, 7 and 4, and all of them are climbers. All of them are very, very physically active, very spirited, very strong-willed children. And they would love to climb the walls, climb the terrace, and within reason, they are given the space to climb and be free. But there's always ground rules. There's always an outside rule, an outside line, so they know where they can go and where they can't. So in answer to your question, if there's someone climbing the walls, how do we stop it? We first understand why they're climbing the walls. So what is their behaviour telling you? Are you over here doing something on your laptop and they feel like they're not getting any attention, so they're saying, hang on, look at me. Then if you put your laptop down, you go, hey, do you know what, I think we could do that climbing in the park, let's get our shoes on and go. Brilliant. Chances are they probably would stop. But there's no point us going, get down from there, what's wrong with you, stop behaving this way, you're so rude, doesn't help. They're thinking, well, you're not hearing me, I'm trying to tell you something, you're not listening to me. So what we so easy do is we see misbehaviour and we discipline the misbehaviour, but you don't actually know why the misbehaviour's happened. And as soon as you know why the misbehaviour's happened, let's talk to the bit behind it, the feeling usually, talk to the feeling, the misbehaviour goes away. So we don't need to get to that point of punishing or belittling or shaming or making our children feel stupid. You just do not need to do it. And I'd just like to add at this point, I think it's really important to say that, I mean, any of you listening to me who don't know me, my children are not those perfectly behaved, calm children that we all know. And Tony will vouch for this. They are full-on spirited, amazing, excitable children. They don't sit quietly all the time. They are very well disciplined. I'm very happy with the way.
Positively disciplined. Right?
Yeah.
Go, boom.
But it's not about that I've got these calm children that just do what you say and they jump and they say, it's not at all. I don't want children like that. So, for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want children like that. No.
Because actually, children like that, there's more concern than children that show misbehaviour, because they don't feel that they can show you their feelings through their misbehaviour because they're frightened or there's something else going on.
Yeah, what they're internalising.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So misbehaviour is actually a very good thing, because then you can read, hey, darling, what's going on for you? What's happening? So before I left, my husband was doing gardening with my younger son and he was kicking the plant pots. Why was he kicking the plant pots? Because Daddy said he could drill the hole in the second pot, and actually Daddy let him drill the hole in the third pot. Daddy forgot he'd said the second pot. So once we had a conversation, we worked out what the problem was. Now we understand, we can empathise with his feelings. Sorry, darling, didn't realise that we'd said the second pot, not the third pot. Understand why you're frustrated. How can we fix it? Would you like to do the third pot? Oh yes, that'll be fine. But unless you think to understand, rather than stop kicking the pot, if you carry on kicking the pot, you can't do gardening with me.
Yeah, because it's such a skill, Josie, that, isn't it? You know, and I guess that's where the education comes in. That's why the workshops are so important.
Yeah, it definitely is something to learn.
Simple language, like we've had it with Tallulah a bit recently, that, you know, I think there was one instance that we were like, right, we're going out in half an hour, we're leaving. But she was just so in a game. So she was just playing away and we just went, right, we're going. And within 5 minutes we were out the house. And we're just about to walk up the hill and she went, no, I'm not going. And she just sat there. And she sat there and sat there. And we were about 15 minutes in. Nope, I'm not going.
What did you do?
So Katerina said, look, I'm going to stay here with Tallulah. You just go to the park, go to the heath with the girls. You go and play. I'll meet you at the tree. We have a favourite tree that we climb. And I'll come and find you. 2 hours later, it was obvious she wasn't coming, so I said, come on, we head back, and we arrived back at the house, and Tallulah's here. And then once we'd sat down, we realised that, of course, it was her. We'd taken her away from something she was doing. We didn't judge her feelings and how she felt about it and whether she was ready to leave, and she wasn't involved in the conversation. It was just we were going.
Yeah.
You know? And it's that small window, isn't it? That's where a mistake can happen.
It is.
And then it can be a tantrum. And I think it's the tantrums then with someone that's 2 or 3, because they can't quite communicate, can they?
No.
So that's down to the parents, again, developing an innate ability or some kind of tuning in intuitively to that behaviour, what it is and why they're doing it.
Yeah. There's something called the mistaken goal chart, which is something I teach, which basically shows you that depending on how you feel, tells you what your child's goal is. So their mistaken goal. So there's 4 categories. The main 3 are attention, power and revenge, where they end up feeling hurt in some way. So all those words sound really quite negative. So the idea, I've got a attention-seeking child, I've got a child that wants power, and a child that seeks revenge. Yeah. None of them are negative at all. Totally normal behaviours that we do as adults all the time, but we can hide them as adults, or we can pretend we didn't do them, or people forgive us, or it's just forgotten. We all know when we've come in from a day at work hasn't been that positive, and we're annoyed and angry. We might put that on our partner or not be as empathetic towards our partner. They can make us either feel better or worse by going, well, I'm leaving now because I've got to go and do something, stop being grumpy. And you're like, hang on, can't you understand my world? Or, hey, Don, do you need 5 minutes? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want something? And only that line can change exactly
the path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same for kids. But we think because they're children, they should know better or not do that, which isn't true at all.
No, it's not. And it was amazing because in that instant, Katerina got it. I didn't quite get it. You know, it took me a bit longer because I think us dads sometimes aren't so emotionally connected in that sense.
That's true. However, the other thing
not for all dads, but I certainly feel from my position,
Katrina's
it takes me a little bit longer because
connected.
Katerina spends more time with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the same for most. If it's a working dad, let's say.
Yeah.
It's something you wrote about the other day. There's an image of Billy in the shot.
Yeah.
Can you describe that?
So what I wrote?
Yeah, did you remember it?
I don't, but I could probably remember most of the ideas. So the idea
Because really it's about father's language around the kids, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And what we inherit, I think, as a papa anyway.
So definitely for dads, and this is a generalisation, but it's my experience, and I've worked with hundreds of families now, so I think I'm in a position to be able to say, generally speaking, in my experience, this is how I feel. So working dads, generally, and working parents, but let's imagine we've got a mother who's more stay at home or more primary caregiver, and dad's more at work, more of the breadwinner, out early, out later. Their main role is to provide for the family and be at work. That's their main focus. So that's like you, and that's like my husband, Billy. So you have to make a real effort to get in your child's world. That's the biggest part. You have to, because me at home, Katrina at home, other mums at home, they're totally running it. They are on it. They know what they're doing.
Rhythm.
They've got a rhythm going. Exactly, and they're doing it every day, so they can read something. So, for example, if Billy comes home and one of my children are behaving out, or they're hurting, or in some way seeking revenge, from what I mentioned in the chart, I will let him know. So I'll say, is feeling a bit upset right now because their play date was cancelled. So they had a play date and it was cancelled. The child was ill, let's say. So he is going to be so much more empathetic to her being a bit irritated, a bit annoyed with the world at that moment in time. Maybe offer her a bigger squeeze, all those sorts of things. So he is excellent at getting in their worlds. Other little things might have going on. He always remembers school plays, school trips, events they've got. One of my daughters, a really good swimmer, what she's doing, what her strokes are. So he makes a real effort to keep that in his head so he's able to talk to them about it. To be fair, sometimes I have to remind him, remember this is going on. And I do. And actually, I think it's really important if we want to create this relationship in our household where we are equal, that the mother, woman, stay-at-home, primary caregiver, however you want to refer to them, does need to support the father in that role, because they can't always remember everything that's going on because they've got other things. And this isn't to take away from mums not being awesome, and I know you have it hard too, but I'm just talking from the male perspective right now, that actually you're not going to remember everything that's going on. You can't possibly. So it's for mum to tell you, hey, darling, remember that this is happening at school today. So then you can come around and go, hey, Lola, remember that I think you're awesome, and whatever happens today, I think that you are going to do a great job. Something like that. So you come always supporting, always encouraging, always having their back without physically being there. Another thing that we do, he does, is that he will make real special time for them. So he will talk about it a lot in the week. He'll call them up. They'll be busy. Dad, I can't talk now. I'm in the garden. You know, how annoying for him on the other end of the phone that he's constantly got this child who's half doing something else, trying to have a conversation, putting the phone down. He calls back 10 minutes later. He's like, can I talk to one of them? Tries again. He doesn't give up. I don't know how he's so resilient to it, really. But he's aware that they're in their world at home, busy in the garden. There's 3 of them, they're playing, they've got the tent out. It's all very exciting. And they don't want to talk to daddy right at that time. So he keeps trying till he gets those windows. Then he gets those moments where he sits with them, he talks, and they plan what they're going to do at the weekend. And the smallest little things like this bank holiday weekend he's been talking about since last week and planning all the things they're going to do. They're doing the garden, they're doing the planting, what plants they've got. Billy's picked the pots. They've got the tent out. They're sleeping in the tent in the garden. Like all sorts of things that I wouldn't think of because I don't think like that. I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Where are we going to be at what time? How are we going to get there? Who's coming over? What do we need for dinner? I'm thinking differently. So for him...
Well, he has to break that rhythm of what you're doing as well.
Yeah,
right?
he does. And that makes him fun, Dad. That makes him exciting. And I'm pleased that he has that. I'm really pleased that he gets to have that bit. And also, he's very conscious. And this, I shouldn't just talk about Billy. As men, we need to be conscious of the backgrounds that we were brought up in. So often we have this
100%.
idea... Yeah. Often we have this idea that as the man, we need to be all-powerful. We need to be strong. We need to be the disciplinarian. We need to have the punishment. If you don't, I'm going to tell daddy. I mean, don't ever use that line. But the idea that this is the role that we play and we are not as emotionally connected sometimes to our children as we should be. And I think mothers or primary caregivers learn that more because they're there all the time so they can see. So I know that if I behave in a certain way, although it might fix the problem for that moment, like a punishment, right then we'll stop it right at that moment. An hour later, we've got the same problem coming out in a different way because they feel hurt or misunderstood or it's unfair.
Yeah, you haven't heard them.
Absolutely. So it doesn't benefit us in any way to behave that way. Whereas when the dad comes home, he doesn't necessarily know that because he hasn't tried this 50 times already this week. So he comes home, tries it and gets a negative response. And I think that's not fair. I think we have to support our partners and understand that, which is why I'll always give Billy a heads up. This is going on right now at home. This is where we want to be. This is what we want to do. And also, I mean, obviously I'm a coach, so it is easier for me in some ways because I do coach him a little bit. Not that he's open to really hearing his wife, to be fair.
Do you put your coaching voice on?
Well, he'll say to me, I know you're coaching me right now.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And he's like, can you stop PDing me? Yeah. But like the other day, our son was climbing down the banister. And I mean, he's a very climby child, but he was quite literally climbing down the banister. Doesn't bother me because I know he can do it. Then he's like, careful, you know, it's quite high. Can you get down? Also concerned about his banister. So can you get down? And he tries to take him down. And I said, and then he's gripping on. He's refusing to come off. I said, stop trying to take him down. You're not going to get him down like that. And he said, but I don't want him.
Show him how to do it safely.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he was fine. But I said to him, you're not going to get him down doing it that way. And I said, you're telling him, and no child likes to be told. I said, you need to distract him, or you need to say, Bills, can you do it again, but do it this way? And he did. He said, Bills, can you do it again, but do it this way? And then that was what happened.
And that's part of the language within positive discipline, right?
So the language is all about teaching. Like, it's so nice to talk to your children when you teach them and you see them learn. I love talking to my children properly. And when you don't have to punish, it feels really good. I mean, I was recently talking to a parent and it blew my mind what he said. And this dad, he is a great dad, okay? I see him regularly doing his parenting. We're not friends, but I see him and he's dedicated. He's a dedicated dad. And he said to me a couple of weeks ago, and it just completely blew my mind. He said, Josie, I don't like upsetting my children, but I do it because on purpose to make them learn. And it absolutely blew me away. He was brought up in a very, very, very strict upbringing.
Sorry, explain that again.
So he will make his children feel bad for certain things, even though he doesn't like doing it. So inside, he'll be feeling crappy doing it, but he will make them feel bad for doing certain things like shame them or embarrass them in order for them to do better, which I understand. I understand why he does it because he was very much parented that way, much stricter than...
So it's his inherited parenting.
Yeah. So he believed that, he said, well, how am I going to teach them if I don't tell them? if I don't make them understand. But it was amazing to me because he is a great man, this dad. This is in no way saying he's not an amazing human being and dad. He's doing the best he knows. It's all he knows. So you can only do, you've only got that much information.
With what you have, right?
Yeah, 100%. So he was doing the best he understood to do. I mean, I should add, we're now having one-to-one coaching and that will soon be gone. But the idea that is what he believed. And he said to me, it doesn't feel good. I don't enjoy doing it. So if ever you're doing something with or for your child or discipline them when it feels bad, it's bad. If it doesn't feel good, it is not the right thing to be doing. That's a really good place to keep to know. Is that right? That doesn't feel nice. So it's not good. That makes sense.
No, it does. It really makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say. What guy?
Yeah, he was so open to hearing it. I think he was like desperate to know a different way, because he didn't know any other way. That was the way he was brought up.
Well, he's at that stage he's unconsciously incompetent.
Yes.
Until you make him consciously incompetent.
Yes.
And then you give him the tools, and then he becomes consciously competent. And then you do it over time, then he becomes subconsciously competent. And then when he has a child, the child then gets born into that parenting style, which will become their unconsciously incompetent way of parenting.
I love that. I'm going to have to write that down. That's a lot
that's
of
coaching. So that's the skill is, say, of anything, you could say, right, parenting is a skill. That's why it's so important as a skill, because people say, oh, it's not what cards you dealt, it's what you do with them. Actually, it's people telling you what to do with the cards. It's how you play the game, I guess. That's why it's so important.
It is.
Because if I listen to my mum used to say stuff like, wait until your father gets home.
Yeah, it's a big
and then he never used to come home, right? He used to come home on a Sunday. We used to get to see him, really. So I lived I was terrified of this guy coming home, She built just a monster out of him. So then it put him out on a lonely island. Then I didn't know how to communicate with him anyway. So it was like simple. I mean, that's just like... Whereas that was the norm. It was like everyone was using that kind of language. And also it was acceptable for a guy to be that busy and be away from the home. It was almost like an excuse that they could not interact with the kids emotionally that way. I'm sure it's not the same for all dads, but I mean... It's like,
not, but also in her situation, maybe that was her... And, because I'm a coach, I'm very much open to hearing how people do it very different and being very empathetic towards people's ways. So although I do it what I believe to be the right way, I'm not about being judgmental. I have an opinion, but I don't pass judgment because... So talking about your mum, say, she might have said that rather than hit you. I don't know. Maybe she hit you too.
I should have get the belt out. No, she didn't. Sorry, Mum.
But the idea that she didn't hit you and she didn't want to hit you, so she's like, what else can I use? He's not listening to me. Not listening because she missed the whole bit around the feeling.
Yeah.
But unless she knew that, and so many people don't know that. So many people don't know that. And that's like so important. Like, you do not need to discipline your children's behaviour unless you understand their feeling. Deal with the feeling, then we can talk about how we fix it. So a child's having a tantrum. Okay, so let's imagine you're feeling really crap. You've had a really bad day. You feel really bad. You're feeling crap already. You're right down there with like lowing. You're low. And then someone tells you, you're so awful. You're such a depressing person. Why are you being so miserable? What's wrong with you? For God's sake, don't you know you've got other stuff to do? You're embarrassing. You're pathetic. It makes you feel even worse. You then might ring someone for support. They then remind you that you're a failure in life. So now you're like right down here. That's what we do to our children. So our children come home from school. Let's use school. They come home from school. They've had a hard day at school. Their teachers told them off when it wasn't them that spoke in assembly. Then their friend didn't share the ball. Then they're meant to be going on a play date that's got cancelled. Someone mentioned that they've got a dirty toothpaste mark on their skirt that they didn't realise. So you come out of school, you've got these 4, I like to refer to them as buckets. You've got these 4 buckets. You come out of school. You're not feeling great right now. You're feeling a bit bad. Then you say to your mum or dad, have you got my favourite? Have you got my snack? They say, no, I've forgotten. So now that's it. That's the last thing. Now you're really not going to be cooperative. You're really not going to be very kind. You're really not going to be very helpful. You're going to stomp out of school. Mum and dad are going to say, we'll go home and get your favourite. I don't want my favourite snack when I get home. I want it now. Okay, so when your child responds like that to a situation, they're not talking to you like that because you didn't bring their favourite snack. They are talking to you like that because there's so many other things that have happened and the snack was the final thing. So when your child behaves like that, what do? Don't talk to me like that. I won't bring you a snack ever then. Oh, for goodness sake, it's not about you. We take things so personally. So, they've spoken to me badly, told me I bought the wrong snack. Oh, that's it, right? I'll show you. I won't let you talk to me like that. How dare you behave that way? None of some of the other children don't get snacks. Don't you know how lucky they even get a snack before dinner? And we just go off in this, shut up, stop talking.
Dumping on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen. So so clearly, if my child responds to me like after school, I'll say, baby, you had a hard day. That's what I hear. When they behave that way, that's what I hear. Or they might say, no, not talking about it. I'm fine. Fine, they're not ready to talk about it right then. But what do we do? So when we feel bad, when somebody feels bad, to make them behave better, we've got to make them feel better. So I'm going to now work on making my child feel better. How am I going to do that? I'm going to be empathetic towards their world. When they slam the car door because they've got in because they're annoyed, I'm not going to remind them that we don't slam the car door. I'm going to let that one go. When they're saying they can't do their seatbelt up, it's not working, it's not getting in, it's not fixing, we don't go, sort it out, you know what to do. You will be empathetic and helpful and go to them and do it. Would you do this any other day? No. Are you doing it today? Yes, because they don't feel bad. Every part of their behaviour is saying, help me, mummy, support me, mummy, fix me, mummy. And that's what you're going to do. Then you're going to cuddle them, you're going to be more empathetic. And then after doing that about 20 minutes, you'll find your child will come out and they'll either start telling you things or they won't need to talk about it at that point. They feel better. So now they're feeling better. When you feel better, you behave better. And that misbehaviour goes. The only reason that bad behaviour that we're talking about, of the slamming doors, the kicking the back of the chair, the shouting at their sibling, kicking their friend, getting home, throwing their artwork, whatever, and it carries on all night. You've got a parent that says, it just carried on all night. They just behaved terrible since they've got back from school. I don't know what's wrong with them. It's because the very first time they showed that behaviour, you didn't try and understand it. So they're still feeling bad going to bed.
Still trying to make you understand it.
But as adults, we don't do that. When you see someone feels bad or low, hey dude, are you all right? How can I help you? But that's an adult. We don't do that for children. It's crazy.
What do we think about the naughty step and gold stars?
So that's a no. So the naughty step's completely pointless. I mean, it's actually a bit of a joke, the naughty step, isn't it? Because most kids just go, okay, I go and sit in the naughty step for 3 minutes and go and sit there and laugh and don't learn anything.
If you live in a bungalow, what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, there is that. Sit them outside in the cold. Yeah. But the... no, it's pointless. It doesn't teach them anything. It's a punishment. It's lazy parenting. You can't work out what's going on with your child or how to teach them. We cannot take our children away sometimes. Right, darling, I notice that you're not playing this game the way you should be. We can go into another room. Come on, let's go. But you don't isolate. They don't send them out. So you can go together. I need help with dinner. You distract them. You try and work out why they're doing that. But that's not teaching them anything. It's all about teaching. Parenting is about teaching. Got to teach them. And it's not... Punishment is a lot quicker. It will happen right then. They'll stop that very moment. Right, you're not going to have your Easter egg tomorrow if you carry on. Suddenly they'll stop. What if you taught them? You've taught them nothing. You've taught them, you better stop, otherwise I'm going to do this. So what they actually think is, I'll do that when mum's not watching.
Yeah.
I'll do that when they don't see.
I'll crack on with what I've done previously.
Or I'll blame my sibling. Yeah, that's what they learn. Whereas, why do we not do that? Let's talk about why we don't do that. We discuss it. It really works, I promise you.
Sit on the step and have a conversation with them.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So one of my lines I use is, let's go and have a chat, darling. So if ever, I will never discipline in front of anybody because I never want to humiliate my children really, or to shame them. So if I was at a play date and my kids might have been acting out or not sharing as much as I wanted them to, or whatever the story might be, I'd say, darling, can we go and have a chat for a minute? And they always come because they know they're not going to get told off. We'll go out and I say, what's going on? I noticed this. So I notice you're not sharing the toys. And they'll say, and they'll tell me why. They'll explain why. And then we have a conversation back and forth. They come up with a plan and agreement and go back in and we're fixed. It's very much about communication and having an agreement, having a conversation. It's not about, I don't dictate to them at all.
And it also, I remember the only time I've ever lost it, and it was terrible. I felt so bad afterwards. I really lost it. And it was exactly that. I basically end up picking Lola up in front of these other kids and walking off with her. Yeah. Because they were behaving so bad. Everyone was just behaving so badly. Yeah. It was on someone's house that we were staying in. We were in Ibiza. They gave us their guest house to stay in. And they had this there was a massive cactus outside the house. Anyway, all the kids decided to just destroy this cactus. So it smashed the whole thing up, right? And so we then went down this whole path of why they were doing it. So we had this whole conversation. We thought about how long the cactus has been here. I mean, it's been here far longer than we have as human beings. So why did you choose to do this? Consider what you've done. And anyway, we went down this path. And the next thing they were doing something else on another area. And then the guy that we were staying with was then upset about pomegranates being ripped off his trees and strewn all over the
gosh,
place.
yeah. But what? Let me just stop you there. What also is happening now is you as a dad are feeling embarrassed.
I know. So my ego,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's all
yeah,
ego.
yeah.
And immediately after, I was like, oh, how did you let that happen, man? I was, anyway, it just felt unpleasant. And then the next thing, they were around by this pool and they were misbehaving around the pool, and they were still with these pomegranates after we then said, look, the guy doesn't want all the pomegranates ripped off the trees, and you're just disrespecting his wishes, and we're staying at his house. Anyway, it carried on. And in the end, I was like, there was like this beast inside. It was
to be fair, Tony, I think you're pretty tolerant.
I've had enough. And Lola went right up on my shoulder. And right, that's it, we're going back to the house. And I just picked her up and walked her out of the situation.
Yeah.
But I broke something, it felt like, in that moment. And it took me a bit of time to be able to repair it. It was just, I completely embarrassed her in front of the people, her friends, and the trust as well.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I lost my shit. So
she was scared.
And she was scared.
Yeah.
I would have been scared. This fucking guy comes along, just picks
scared.
the kid up and starts roaring at them, And I felt ashamed myself after that, But then you have to immediately go into, how do I repair this?
Yes.
So how do we repair it?
What did you do?
I just sat her down and apologised. I just said, look, I felt this, and
so that's
I let
a really
my
good
temper
point.
get the better of me, and that does happen, And how often have you seen me lose my shit? Katerina then related it to Narnia and said, look at Aslan. Aslan's a really lovely lion. Everyone loves him and all the animals love him. But if he roars, then everyone just sits there. And she said, unfortunately, you got to see Papa roar.
Yeah.
So that's a good example. That was all right, wasn't it? Yeah. And that kind of salvaged it, I think.
So we all get to that point and we all make mistakes, and the fact that we recognise them is the key. You're right about breaking the trust. I like to use the word connection. So it's where that closeness that you have, you can break it, but it can be repaired. And also when you say sorry to your child, which is the right thing to do. So parents, when you say sorry to your child, don't say sorry like this. The reason I'm sorry that I behaved that way, but it was because you ripped a pomegranate off of the tree that I had told you not to. If you had listened, that would not have happened, because actually you're not apologising at all. You're just putting all the blame back on your child.
Justifying your behaviour.
Yes. So you have to take it on. So I lost control of myself. I got frustrated. I should have done, say what you should have done. I'm sorry for behaving that way. What can I do to make you feel better? And you come up with a plan as to what you're going to do to make you feel better. Lots of cuddles, lots of reassurance. I would then make a point of going out for special time, just you and her, and doing something and really hearing her when you've obviously calmed down. Yeah.
It happens, right?
It totally happens. And it's not about feeling ashamed, embarrassed. Ashamed, embarrassed is if you try and fob it off. So, in my parenting, in my upbringing, apologies didn't really happen. And it was just, it'll be okay. You'll forget about it in a minute. And although you behave like you forgot about it, you actually don't. You have the feeling in there.
Which is probably where you are now.
Yeah, my dad might listen to this and my mum, so I can't talk about it too much. They were great.
I love shaming my parents on podcasts. I think it's because they're not tech savvy, so they're never going to listen to one. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, and another thing, something that really worked for me, I felt the other day, and I think is a good one for parents, is that I invited Lola into the kitchen. I said, Lola, I just want to run something by you. I just want to know how I'm performing as a papa right now.
Oh, love it.
So can you maybe go and have a chat with Millie and just discuss it, and I might think I'm doing well. You might feel I'm an amazing parent right now, but they might be thinking something completely different. Yeah. And I felt that it's always about your last performance, right? People say it's always about your last performance, right? So you might think,
do you know what? I don't agree with that.
So you could be amazing, and then you could be a complete arse in a moment, and it might change things, right? So I felt that, okay, let's just see how I'm performing. And I come back and say, look, so if there's anything you think I could be doing better. Oh my gosh,
you're so good putting yourself out there like that.
Yeah, so it's important. I'm going to keep doing it because it's really valuable, right? It was amazing. And I think I'm even going to bring it in with clients. I'm just going to say, if there's something you think I could be doing better, please let me know. Please fill me in. And they went off, and then they came in. They were a bit like, should we say? I said, look, anything, just don't matter what it is. It's only Papa, you can say it. And they just said, we wish you didn't work so hard.
That's a common
And
one.
I was like, yeah, well, let's have a proper chat about that, though. I
Yeah.
probably work less now than ever, if you think about it. Let's have a think of Windsor, and I was commuting, so I'd get home at this time, and then weekends. And then let's have a think about Ibiza when I was only there for 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and then London 3-4 days. So how often do you see me now? And then it also helped them change their perception of me working hard, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about it. Can be about this thing about they only remember the last performance, because to this date they're seeing me suddenly. I'm writing in the morning really early, and then I might be working a bit more. So what came out of it is that I will separate my work and my parenting. Whereas sometimes I fall into a habit
I do that too.
of working whilst they're there, and then it means I'm not performing at the work, and I'm also not performing at the parenting.
That's true. However, just adding to that, Tony, the reality is you get to be at home so much with your children because you do that. So that's how I live my life. So I am a coach and I am answering emails, doing things regularly with my children. And they know that. And I explain. So maybe it's about explaining. So I explain, this is what I have to do. I need to work now for an hour. And there are times that they say, oh, Mum, I don't want you to work. Of course they don't. I would rather be playing with you too, or going out with you. However, this is our reality, and I get to be with you all of the time because I do this. So I've got a special table now set up in my house that when I'm at that table, they know I'm working. And they're very empathetic towards that. But it's because we have that conversation around, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to achieve. Also, they love what I do as a job. They find it really exciting. You know, loads of their friends watch my videos, and I've coached their friends' parents, and they find it all very exciting. One of my daughter's favourite things is whenever they get to go on Google at school, most people type in my name and watch and I'll come up and they're like, Mummy, it's like you're famous. I was like, let's not get excited, girls. If you and your friends know who I am. But they like it. And I think because of that helps. And I definitely do cross over the path, and I make mistakes with that sometimes too. And I think it's great you recognise that, but I don't think you should beat yourself up about it, because that's normal. And I don't know how you could, if you get a message from someone, it's a great opportunity, you need to reply then, and that's okay. It's also about your kids being empathetic as well. You're empathetic towards them. If they, I'm very bendy with my children. What I mean by that is I'm not rigid. So I'm very much about, Mum, can we go to the park? If there's no reason to say no, I don't ever say no unless I need to say no. So I'm not a parent that just says no because it doesn't fit the routine, or it's not the day, or it's not the time, or very much about, let's do it. What do we want to do? How do we want to do it? What do we want to eat? I don't want to eat that tonight. Let's go and get something. And I'm very relaxed. And I think that they're the same because of it.
Well, also that emphasises the no when you mean no, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm not about saying no to say no. I very rarely say the word no.
Okay. Talk us through a workshop.
Okay, I love my workshops. What
can one expect from a workshop?
What can one expect? Well, to come away feeling really empowered. Empowered's a big word. It's really important to me that both our children feel empowered, but that I empower parents. You come away feeling like you know how to do it, feeling like you've got a real understanding. You'll come away really understanding your child, which is one of the most important things. So who they are. And this is really interesting, isn't it? Because we think we know our children, or we think we want our children to behave in a certain way, but as adults, we can be completely different to our children. So you've got 3 children, I've got 3 children. They're not all the same personality, and we're not the same personality as they are. And we need to be very empathetic about getting into their world, not into their world how we see it, but actually into their world and how they see the world around them.
Their unique world.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I teach you that, which is so helpful, because then when your children behave in certain ways, you understand why. And when we understand why, that is literally the answer to everything, when we understand why, because we don't then behave in the same way. We don't behave negatively. If I tell you that person has just been really, really rude in the coffee shop because they've been told they've got to move out of their house tomorrow. If I told you that, you'd be so empathetic and gentle and kind to that woman compared to if you didn't know that and just think, oh, she's rude. It's the same thinking. So when we understand why, we're very empathetic, and we then talk to the real thing that's happening. So that's the magic bit that I have absolutely sorted with my kids, which is why I feel so connected with them, because I really know who they are. Parts of their personality at times I do not like. This is not about me always liking their behaviour, but I understand why. And when you understand the why, the way you then behave, and I teach that a lot on my workshop, and that is one of the biggest things that people come out with and say in their feedback, I just really understand my child. Also knowing that children behave badly when they feel badly, it's another big one. I talk a lot about connection, how to build that connection with your child. You'll come away feeling really connected. And And not always straight away. So this isn't like, oh, you're going to come on a 3-week workshop with Josie and on 3 weeks and one day you're going to have this new transformational relationship with your child. It takes work. It takes effort. It takes you changing yourself. Also, you'll have loads of tools to know how to parent situations without using praise and punishment. I'm not going to tell you, oh, don't use praise and punishment and then say bye. You are going to leave feeling totally equipped to deal with situations.
What to replace them with.
Yeah, and I've got hundreds. And they work.
You're not going to get you to name a few, right?
I can. But the other thing I think something that people say a lot when they finish a workshop is I talk a lot about my own parenting. So I'm not just a coach that's read a book and believes in something and teaches it. I actually live this on a daily basis, 24/7. I teach it in the Montessori classrooms I teach it in my workshops. I do it with my own children. So the methods are tried and tested. So I've definitely tested things on my kids and gone, that didn't work. That wasn't the right thing to do. Oh, this is a lot better. And so... which is why I invited you on here, because it's kind of, it's authentic, right? Absolutely. I'm very
only
much
if you're living it, right?
Yeah. 100%. And I make mistakes as well. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm the first person to say I'm not perfect. None of us can be perfect parents because we're emotional human beings, just like our children. And when we're stressed or when we're under pressure, we're not the best people we can be either. So I've recently, I'm better now, but I've really hurt my foot for probably about 8 or 9 months, and I had to wear like a foot brace, and that really was very frustrating as a mum of 3 physical children. And there were times that I wasn't as tolerant or wasn't as gentle or wasn't as, because I was so stressed with this flipping foot that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And they were so kind to me throughout it. And it was only afterwards where you really look and reflect, right? You think, my gosh, you was just so kind, guys. Like I remember saying to them, really thanking them, and actually started crying and saying, I want to thank you so much for just being so lovely. And they said, but Mummy, you were really sore. We had to support you, like the washing needed lifting upstairs. They'd take it upstairs. I mean, they're helpful anyway, but they did way more than they needed to. It's making me feel a bit teary now.
It's okay to show them vulnerability, right?
Yeah, but they just stepped up. And I guess it's because I've taught that to them as well, where, you know, when someone needs support, you support them. And that's what they did for me. And yeah, they're great kids. Sorry, you had a question. You wanted to share some tools? Around, punishment and... Okay, so when you punish a child, it's very, punishment and praise. Okay, so 2 very big topics. Ones I like to talk too much about, so tell me to stop when I go too much. No, just go. Okay, so full flow. Punishment is punishment works, but it works for that moment right then. So if you want to do something, punish your child right that moment. However, what happens is it has long-term effects. It loses that connection with your child. They think, I'm feeling upset, I've behaved in a bad way, you're hurting me, and they'll often hurt back. You totally lose a depth with your child when you punish them. There's no question. If you don't punish them and you just look for how can we solve this? What do we need to do? What's the solution here? So an example might be, okay, homework. Child's not doing their homework, done their homework, say. So what do? We punish them, right? You're not going to go out. You're not going to do this. You're not going to have this. Then they feel angry and resentful towards you. There's several different things you can do instead. You can let it go and let them not hand their homework in and let the teacher be the one to say, why is your not homework handed? And that's not our level of expectation. For me, just to add, I have done that. That's called a natural consequence. I have let natural consequences take over with reference to school before. However, know your school, know your teacher. If your teacher, when she gets to school, hasn't done her homework, is going to punish her, the whole point of what you're trying to do is wasted. You might have been the one to punish her. So always know what the teacher will do. So a perfect example, a couple of years ago, my oldest daughter said that we decided we're going to make our own lunchboxes. Okay. So I wasn't going to make lunchboxes anymore. I don't need to. I don't like doing things that I don't have to do. It frustrates me. My kids are very capable. So they make their own lunchboxes, and she had decided that what was in her lunchbox was fine, which was fine. There was 2 pieces of bread in her lunchbox, and she's a tall, strong girl. She needs food, and 2 pieces of bread is not going to cut it for her. So I said to her several times, give the opportunity, darling, are you sure that's what you need in your lunchbox today? Yes, Mum, I'm very happy with my lunchbox. Fine, close the lunchbox. So when I then sent her to school, I now want her to learn from this opportunity without me belittling her, shaming her, that that's not the right lunch. And I don't want it to go on for several days. I want it to happen now. So I say to her teacher, without her teacher knowing, just so you know, she has made her own packed lunch today. I have not forgotten to make it. do not give her anything else. That is her lunch. Because the school would offer the canteen. I think the parents forgot to put the lunch in. So the teacher said, are you sure? I said, 100% she's not allowed to eat anything else but that. Don't say anything to her. Don't offer anything else. You don't even need to talk about it. That is all she's having. I then thought, hang on, I don't want this to get messed up in the canteen. So I then went to the office. Just so you know, today, she has got this in her lunchbox. I have not forgotten. She's not allowed any other food. Do not tell her she's not allowed any other food. You just don't offer it. Can you please make sure the canteen staff know? Canteen staff then found out. All these people look at me like, what sort of awful human being are you? You know, aren't you going to give her more? Aren't you going to drop something in? I can give her food. I was like, no, I know you can.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah. And I was like, no, you're not giving her anything else. She will be fine. And they followed through with what I said. Finished school. Mum, I definitely didn't pack enough in my lunchbox today. I am never doing that again. Oh, that's a really good idea, darling. From then, she has epic packed lunches.
Yeah.
But if I'd punished her, you're ridiculous, Tyler. You can't have that. You can't have that little lunchbox. It's pathetic. Why are you only eating that? You're going to be hungry. Don't you know that? Don't you? What's that doing? That's not helping her in any way. What I did was
Does that conversation ever occur in your head, though? Do you ever have it come up? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe what they're thinking.
Yeah, of course you think that. Yeah, you're like, oh, come on. Or you're waiting for them to step up. You're like, come on. But
I just wanted people to be clear with that.
It's normal. It's normal, of course. But you want your child to learn for themselves. And she learned. And it was beautiful watching her learn. She absolutely learned. She did not feel embarrassed. She did not feel belittled. She did not feel punished. She made a decision. Wasn't the right decision. She's now making another decision. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's empowering.
Also, it's not about rescuing your kids. What, you want me to go to Marks and Spencer's, go and buy a lovely packed lunch and drop it in? I'm not doing that. Because our children also have to learn how to deal with disappointment in real life. And as long as they're not getting properly hurt, or I'm not there to support them at the end, that's what has to happen.
Yeah, we do it on a simple level, like our reusable cups.
Yeah.
You know, and there's LLS in Hampstead, and we go there and we get a hot chocolate, and they gave us these cups for Christmas, you know, recyclable cups.
Yeah.
Reusable cups. Yeah. And we always say, look, if we don't have the cups, we're not getting a hot chocolate.
Yeah.
You know, has anyone packed their cups? No, we haven't packed the cups. Okay, no hot chocolate. And then guess what? You definitely get the bags are packed every week. They know their cups have to be in there, and they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so teach them responsibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. So, also, when we, as parents, and going back to the punishment question, as parents, we very much look at what needs to happen right now. And we do parent, like you said about the Ibiza example, from embarrassment. And it's horrible to feel embarrassed as a parent. It's horrible. It's crippling because people watch you and you're like, oh my God, they're thinking that I'm either not doing anything or I'm being too tough or that I don't care about the pomegranate tree either. It's awful. It really is awful. And interestingly, I was really, I very rarely get embarrassed, especially around my parenting, but I felt slightly embarrassed about 5 days ago doing a photo shoot. With me and my 3 children. They were doing it for a company, not something we normally do, but they were doing it at this point. And we were in a small room, so a room like this size with 3 children for 4 hours. Great. And 4 photographers, nice experience. Designers, all sorts. And I had no idea it was going to be 4 hours. I should say that now because I would not have signed up for saying yes. But, you know, the girls found it all fun and there's photos and there's props and they were getting into it. My son had enough and we'd got the toys that we were playing. I'm not willing just to give him a screen to entertain him. That's not what I choose to do. And they asked him to hold this card. So he was holding a card up and they said, can you just hold it there and look up and smile at us? And he said, I'm going to rip the card. Okay. So he said, I'm going to rip the card. That bit didn't embarrass me, just to say it's the next bit. And I knew exactly, when he said, I'm going to rip the card, exactly what he was saying to me, everything in him. So when a child uses language such as revenge, they're hurting. So I'm hurting, so I'm going to hurt you. So that's how it works. So he's then basically said, in no uncertain terms, I'm hurting, I've had enough, so I'm going to show you I've had enough and I'm going to rip the card. So I took the card, I said, my darling, we can't rip this, I'm going to hand it to this lady, but we can go and have a chat. And I said, I need to talk to Bill for a minute. I said, because he said that. In front of him, I said, you said that, darling, aren't you? Because you've got bad feelings inside and you've got those bad feelings inside and Mummy needs to help you with them. Because that's what he was saying. And he said, yes, I've got bad feelings inside. I said, I know, darling, I can see that. Let me help you. So I then pick him up and I walked to the side of the room and I said, darling, is this boring for you now? He said, it's really boring. I don't want to hold the card. I said, okay, then you don't have to hold the card. We'll just say you're done. I said, you don't have to hold the card. I understood. I didn't want to hold the flipping card. I understand where the guy's going from. He's 4. He'd had enough. And he was showing me, Tony, in every way he'd had enough. He wasn't being that cooperative, but I was pushing him. I was there saying, hold the car bills, do one more smile.
Just communicate in another way, right?
I wasn't listening to him. I knew he'd had enough.
Yeah.
But I tried getting more out of him. And I did that because I felt pressure from the photographers because I'd said I'd do something for someone, so fine. And then, so that then happened. I wasn't embarrassed by that. They all looked at me like, aren't you going to tell your child off for the fact that he just said he's going to rip our card? I was like, what do I need to tell him off for? Since tell off. He's not going to do it because we've just worked out why he was saying it. It was the feeling. Fix the feeling. He's not going to do it. You can give him all the cards. He won't rip them. Yeah. But then later on, he was then sort of running up and down, literally 10 minutes before we were going. And you've seen my boy. He's a physical little thing. And as he was running back and forth, he knocked over a display. It wasn't a big display. It probably took them 4 or 5 minutes to put together. And I saw this woman raise her eyebrows several times to these other women in the room, sort of like, one of them, or tutting, or whatever it might have been. She had a 2.5-year-old, because we'd already had a conversation, and a 10-year-old, and they didn't know what I did as a job, interestingly. And and she was getting annoyed with him. That's when I picked him up. I said, I'm done. We're leaving now. And I fed back to the person who ran the event that I was really unhappy with her behaviour. She made me feel humiliated and embarrassed by the fact that my son was behaving that way. And you know what all I could think about was I feel really sorry for a 2.5-year-old, because if that's how she behaves to my child, it's not even hers. Can you imagine how she would behave towards her 2.5-year-old?
How conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, sorry, I went off on one again.
No, it's good. But it is a tough one when you get hit by that. I've had it. What are you doing? Oh yeah, I invited the kids into the studio, so they come in the studio. Yeah. And I had full morning of classes, like one after the other. But I wanted them to enjoy the experience of being there and see what I do and climb over things. Yeah. And there was a segment when I'm then doing breath work with someone and we're sitting opposite each other. And I said, right, guys, I'm going to give you some stuff to do over here. We're going to do some breath work, so we need a bit of quiet time. Can I give you this? And me and this guy were going through breath work. And he's a dad, so he 100% got it. And then it started. And then he said, it's okay. He said, if it's your own kids, you hear it. It's just like, you just have to go. True. You have to go into bubbling brook. Yeah. And let it go. It'll be fine. Yeah. I can hardly hear them. It's just you're picking up on the fact I'm here and you're thinking I'm thinking that they're really
sounds
noisy.
Like a good guy.
Yeah, and then it helped clear it. Yeah.
That is true though, isn't it? When it's not your child.
Unless of course like the woman there raising their eyebrows, right? And then you have
I really wanted to say something to her.
But I felt a bit like that in Ibiza, if I'm honest. It was really it was almost frowned upon,
Yeah. And I can understand it from their perspective as well. But
they're trashing their land, It's like one of those feelings, yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard, isn't it? When you're in that position where you're like, there's no excuse. So people listen and think, well, there's no excuse for your children trashing someone's land. There's no excuse for my son running and ruining a set from the person's perspective of who's made the set and who owns the land. Totally get it. But this is where, as a parent, you have to 100% commit to being your child's person. So even when your child has made a mistake or messed up, you've still got to be understanding their world. So yes, it's embarrassing. Deal with the embarrassment, get over it. It's your problem. You can be embarrassed about a million other things, but I would rather me feel embarrassed about other people thinking I'm not doing a good job than my child feeling I wasn't on their side.
Yeah, and also what came out of it, that it was blatantly obvious it wasn't really Lola. It was these, they were older boys that she was hanging out with.
Yeah. And
it was their behaviour that suddenly she dropped into that realm. It's like the lowest denominator of behaviour. She managed to slip into it. Yeah.
That's all normal.
I guess
We've
was
all
wrapped
done that.
up in my emotion as well. Yeah.
We've all behaved that way, haven't we, before? And we're like, shouldn't have done that, but I was badly led by, should have done that in our
came out a bit later
days.
For me. Yeah. So I should never have done that. Yeah. 30 years on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, praise. You asked me about praise.
Let's get to praise.
Oh, I hate praise. Praise isn't my thing at all.
Let's give an example of praise, because as I said, we were discussing it earlier, and I was saying my parents sometimes speak to kids like they're pets.
Yes. So a lot of people do. So good boy, good girl, well done. I'm so proud of you.
Aren't you clever?
Aren't you clever?
That's the best one. Oh, you're so good.
Yeah. So good. Also, in the same hand of praise, bad boy, bad girl, naughty boy, naughty girl. It's the same sort of language, but the other way. So you're using it as a way to try and stop your child, whereas praise, you're using it to try and make your child. do something. So all of that language is just a big no-no.
It's the frequency, the tone of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
But the reason we don't do it, the big, I mean, there's so many, I could talk about this for hours, but the big reason.
But that's because you're so good, Josie.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm such a good girl.
Yeah.
So the reason we don't do it, sorry, I'm fidgeting. The reason we don't do it is because you want your children to do things because they believe it's the right thing to do. So I know that I was praised as a child, and I look to my dad for praise. So the last few years, probably 4 years, I've really worked on them a lot better. But I look to my dad for approval, for what do you think? And of course I care about my dad's opinion, but I care about your opinion. I care about my husband's opinion. But not enough for it to determine what I'm going to choose to do. So when you are constantly praised, you do things for other people. So in school is the worst for praise. It drives me insane. So in school, you're going to get a gold star if you do this. You're going to get a house point if you do your homework. It's nothing about effort. It needs to be about effort, about the actual doing part of it. So, I mean, I've got so many stories around praise. My daughter last year tried out for a swimming club she really wanted to get into. I didn't know if she'd be able to get into it. I don't know how swimming clubs work. I didn't know what the level was. I thought she was a pretty good swimmer. So she tried out for it. She said, Mum, what if I don't get in? I said, if you don't get in, you can either try again or decide it's not for you. So whatever you want to do. I said, but we got to try. Everything's about having a go. She was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. So she went. She was a little bit nervous, but she wasn't frightened. Anyway, did the trial, came out, and the coach came and sat with us. And I'm there obviously really hoping she's got in, but I'm behaving completely normal. And she said, I'm very happy to let you know that you have now got in, and she got into a really quite good group. Really happy to know that you've got into this level. And she was so, Mum, I'm so excited, Mum, I did it. And my language was, you did it, Tyler, you did it. How do you feel? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel so proud of myself. All of this language, all about her. How do you feel? You're so excited. I can see you're so proud of yourself. And she is there beaming. So if I turned around and said, you're a good girl, I'm so proud of you, I knew you'd do it, all of that. So what would have happened if she hadn't have got in? What I would have said, I'm not proud of her. I said, she's not a good girl. I'm going to say, I knew she couldn't do it. Nothing determined the outcome by what I felt. I felt excited for her. I felt excited because she was excited. I was proud that she was proud. So was I proud of my daughter? Yes, I am proud of my daughter all of the time. Was I proud of her if she didn't get into swimming club? As much as I was if she didn't or did. It doesn't matter.
No.
And when you think about it, it really doesn't matter.
Well, you're flipping the language, aren't you? Someone's saying, you must be really proud of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You must be really happy with your work. Yeah.
And it was so wonderful. She was full of belief and self-esteem and happiness and joy. And every part of me wanted to scream, I'm so proud of you. Look what my daughter did. My daughter's amazing. Look at me. But you can't do that, because then it becomes about you and what you think as well. So adding another point, it becomes about, what does Mummy think? Mummy, do you think I did a good job? It doesn't matter what I think. Do you think you did a good job? Yes, I think I did a great job. Then you must have done a great job. So all about putting it back on your child to make them believe in themselves all of the time. The reason you want to do that, again, this is one of mine and my husband's big ones, is we want our children to have really, really strong inner self-esteem. So inside, when they get dumped by their first boyfriend, when they break up from a relationship, when they don't get the interview, when they've messed up and made a mistake in life, that they're going to feel bad, they're going to feel disappointed, they're going to feel hurt, and all the normal feelings, but they're going to be down there and going to be able to go, actually, I can get back up. I can do this. I believe in my ability. I believe in myself. I know I can do it. They don't need me to say, oh, Tony, you're going to be fine. You can do it.
Yeah, like the worst thing would be high expectations and low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
But imagine high expectations and high self-esteem.
Yeah,
That's really powerful, right?
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're really growing a powerful being that way, aren't you?
Absolutely. And totally believing in herself. And also what happens when you teach your child without using praise, they're not fearful of things. So if you say to your child, let me think, give an example. You can swim that length, okay? So if they say, I can swim that length, and you tell them they can do it, and they do it, and you say, good job, you did such a good job, your strokes were perfect, you did really, really well, your timing was amazing, you were spot on, good girl. And then you ask them to do 2 lengths. And the second time you're like, good girl, the time wasn't quite where it should have been, but, well done, good girl. And then you say, you're going to try 3 lengths. They're going to say, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, but
Yeah, well, they're feeling like, oh, I didn't do as well in the second one. Why I'm not getting the praise for it. Why am I going to try again? Whereas if you said to them, great, I got your time. Okay, next one. Do you want to go again? There's no fear. So my kids and people that don't use praise, definitely their kids don't fear. My kids will try anything. They will do anything. Well, I'm sure there's things they wouldn't do, right? But they're not scared to try new things. If someone says we're going here, we're going to try rollerblade, we're going to try ice skating, we're going to go here, we're going to do that, they'll never say, oh no, I don't think I could do that. I'm not sure. I might fall on my face while I was ice skating. I'm not sure I could do that. They go, yeah, sure, let's have a go. Because nothing is about the result. It's all about just trying, having a go. Whether you do it well or you don't do it well, it's still, how did you feel? Did you have a good time? Do you want to try again? I can see you putting a lot of effort. So it's all about what they did rather than the result. We're so result driven as adults, but kids aren't. And it's really important to remember that.
It fits into rewilding in a way, isn't it? Because you're kind of removing all that domesticated language that we've inherited, right?
Yeah,
I like
you're
that.
Totally right. And thinking about, trying things with, again, going back to school, but, say a child had a spelling test. And 1 week they didn't try at all. They didn't do any effort at home. They didn't try at all. And they came out and got 10 out of 10. Oh my gosh, you're going to get a reward at the shop. You're going to be able to go to the cinema at the weekend. I'm so proud of you. 10 out of 10. You're amazing. Call Nanny. Nanny, she got 10 out of 10. Daddy, she got 10 out of 10. Daddy comes home, tells her how great she is. Okay. Next week. So she tries really hard the next week, actually practices her spellings. But the spellings are a bit more tricky this week, but she really practiced. And then she got 8 out of 10. Oh, you only got 8 out of 10. Well, maybe next time you can try harder. She tried harder on the 8 out of 10 than the 10 out of 10.
Just the words were harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the result is very different. And because we are so much on the result, we don't actually hear what happened. Another really good example of that is if you've got a preschooler, and I've got a preschooler workshop coming up actually. If you've got a preschooler who's got, say, a pen, and they've done a scribble on it, and it took them about 4 seconds. They come home, oh, Mummy, Daddy, look at my picture. Oh, good girl, well done. You did a really good job there. Okay, put that one aside. They then then their sibling comes home, same age, similar age, and has drawn a picture, and it's a similar scribble, but actually they had held the pencil beautifully for that time, and they'd carefully gone round in a circle because they were copying something off the wall, and it had taken them about 6 or 7 minutes of really strong hand control, and then they'd shown you, oh, well done, good girl, put it aside. So she thinks, well, hang on a minute. They didn't even recognise what I'd done. His picture took him about 4 seconds of a scribble. That one took me about 6 minutes of effort. And then we're both getting good girls. So children become addicted to praise and creating a life that is praise driven and following praise rather than where they should be and where they want to be. And it halts them in their development. 100%. 100%. One more example. I keep talking.
No, keep it. No, it's really interesting because it just rings so true, doesn't it?
It's so true and so powerful. People really struggle with this one, to be fair. With families I work with, this is probably the biggest struggle. If they go, how do you not teach your child if you don't use praise? How do I tell them I think they're brilliant? I tell my kids I think they're brilliant all of the time. I tell my children I'm proud of them all of the time. So if they're sitting still, doing nothing, that's when I'll say to them, I am so proud of who you are. They won't be doing anything. I'll make sure they're not doing anything that they can associate being proud with. I am proud of them all of the time.
Yeah, but then you'd use the same language to your husband, right?
Yeah. To be fair,
do you know what I mean? To other beings.
Yeah,
it's not like it's just aimed at children.
Yeah.
You use the same language.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're amazing.
Yeah.
What you do is just incredible. You blow me away.
Yeah.
Just like I get that all the time from Katerina.
To be fair, Billy did get this weekend because he's been pretty amazing this weekend. He's done the bathroom, he's looking after a child throwing up at home. I mean, he's been pretty epic right now. Yeah. So yeah, he's getting all that too. I did some one-to-one coaching for a really quite a high-profile family, and I told my dad. He lives in America. I called him. I told him. And he said, oh, well done, good job. And that was sort of it. I think he had to go or something like that. I remember putting down FaceTime and I said to my husband, I said, Billy, he wasn't even impressed. He wasn't even so proud of me for doing it. He's like, can you hear yourself talking? And I said,
you're
what?
One of
he
those
said,
kids.
yeah. I said, why? He said, do you think you did a good job, Josie? I said, yes, I feel epic right now. I feel like I'm like absolutely amazing. He said, then feel that you're epic and absolutely amazing. Why are you letting anybody make you not feel that? And it's because I so want his approval.
It's because
it's in me.
It's because in a way, it's manipulative, right? That praise is manipulative. If you really think about it, not directly being manipulative, but it's manipulating you in a way, and then that alters our behaviours.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was writing this book, for instance, and I got approached by a publisher, and I remember going to my parents, and they were in the garden in their deck chairs like this, just sunbathing, and I said, they were like, how are you? I said, things are amazing. I've got this, I might be getting a book deal. It's with a publisher at the moment. Then, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I know. You're like, do you not hear me?
And I went, what? It's like, what? Completely just blown away by it, to the point I said to Katrina, come on, I think we should go. Yeah. And my nose is completely out of joint. This is a long time ago now. But, and it's that same thing, you see.
Because it's from our parent, that's from our childhood.
That's what I mean. So what happens is, what people fail to understand is what the language they're using around their children, because it's in their first, what I have through Bruce Lipton's work is the first 6 years.
Yeah, Montessori says
they're going to be the tapes you play out for the rest of your life, right? So what they inherit, not just the behaviours, but the language they've learned, will be how they behave, the templates for the rest of their lives, right? Yeah. So that's why it's so important. This conversation is so important for any parents out there, that people who are deciding to have children or have young children, especially in those first 6 years, because every bit of language you're using there and every bit of behaviour you're using there is literally going to shape the rest of their life.
100%.
And you know the work, right? And you had that same experience with your dad. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
That's how powerful it is.
It's so powerful. And don't get me wrong, if you're listening here thinking, God, I'm getting it all wrong, I'm a terrible parent, you're only doing what you know. We've said
based
this,
on your first 6 years,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And my dad would never not want me to think that he did a good job. Of course he's proud of me. I know he is. But I am left thinking, I need to hear it from you. And that we don't want to give that to our children. We want our children to feel they're great that? because they believe it. Yeah. So praise the big one. I feel really passionate about not overpraising.
The school system, right? I mean, how on earth is that? I mean, is there a way of getting in there? Is there a way of getting positive discipline, boom, into the school so they understand that language, Josie? Because that's, because as much we do at the home, for some families, right, we're lucky, right? You get to spend a lot of time with your kids. Katrina gets to spend some. I get to spend a lot of. I'm done by 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I get quite a lot of time with them now. But for parents that don't have that, there's some of my friends that they go to work at like 9 in the morning. Yeah. And they're working till 7 in the evening. Yeah. The kids are in nursery or school, and then they see them in the evening for probably an hour, and then they go, right, we need our time now, and the kids go to bed. Yeah. So really, it's not that in that hour of parenting, almost like the primary foundation has been handed over to the school. Yeah. So how do we deal with that? Because you've got to undo a lot then, haven't you? Or do you think in those moments you're with your kids, it's powerful enough to...
An hour's not enough. And
then you have to make sure your weekends really count, right?
Yeah. So for me, the school that my kids go to, there is rewards and praise charts. I've just explained it to them in great detail how I don't agree with them.
To the kids?
Yeah. So I've explained to my children in great detail what that looks like and how we do it at home and why we do it at home. And interestingly enough, when I had this conversation years ago, my daughter turned around and said, Mummy, that really makes sense because Josh always holds the door open when Da walks down and he gets a house point. But when she's not walking down, he just lets it swing in your face. And I said, well, there we go, Diane. That's a perfect example. Yeah. Because she could see it for herself. Yeah. So they get rewards and star charts. They do quite well at school because they genuinely are happy in themselves. But when they come back and say to me, Mum, I got 5 stars or something today, I'll say, okay, how do you feel about that? And they'll say, well, you're not happy about that, really, are you? And that's a conversation we've had. I said, it's not that I'm not happy, darling. I said, but it doesn't matter to me what stars you got. I want to ask you a question. Do you feel that you put in the effort and you feel that good about what you've done? And she'll say, well, yes. And other times they go, well, actually, I don't even know why I got the 4th one. I didn't really do anything for it. And you'll go, well, that's why star charts don't work. Forget the star charts. Do what you're doing. School will carry on. But I want you to always come back to here and ask yourself if you felt it was the right thing. or if it's the wrong thing and you wanted to do it because it felt right at the time. So there are some things at school, like hitting at school, you're not meant to do, but my kids are not told not to hit. And not because I think they're going to go around and hit everyone, but if they're in a position they feel they need to hit, then that's because they feel they need to. I wouldn't say this to my 4-year-old because he's at a different stage, but to my 9 and 7-year-old, if they're in a position I would never say to them, you don't hit. Because if they feel they need to, then there's a reason for that, and that's just in my book. And I would never discipline them. I do say to them, your school will discipline you. I'm not responsible for that. I said, but you will never hear it from me. If you're in a position where you feel you need to do that, then I'm 100% support you in your decision. And that's a crazy concept for many parents. You couldn't just go home and say that to your kids now if you don't follow what I do. But we're in such a place and know what is right and wrong, and we're connected and we understand. If ever they feel they need to behave in that way, that's because they feel that's because they need to behave in that way.
So let's back it up a bit. Let's say you're a parent and you've had 5 years of speaking to your kids in the way that you've been spoken to in your own childhood. So you've had like 5 years there. And you have another year left another 2 years until they hit 7, and then the work's done in theory, right? Is that enough time? How can you you undo the language and the stuff that's been done?
Okay, so that's a really good question. It's never too late. So
Brilliant.
7 is not even the age. I teach families of 14 and 15-year-olds. It's absolutely, it's never, ever, ever too late. Just like it's not if you're in a relationship or you're in a relationship with our families now.
Yeah.
You know, us as children to our parents, it's never too late. It just will take a little bit more work, and they will fight you more because they'll expect you to punish them. They'll expect you to shout at them. And actually, it's really rewarding when you see the change happening in your children. So I'm currently coaching a woman now. She's got a 15-year-old, and there's a lot of built-up behaviours there where she's shouty, she's cross, she hasn't given her responsibility, she's done too much for her, and now she's set this situation up where her child now expects this. So we need to be very empathetic towards our children's behaviour when you're 15, because you've taught them to behave that way. Mm-hmm. You can't now say, I'm going to be kind and you're going to be kind back. You have to fully take on the concept and go, actually, I really need to continuously be kind. So she started off by saying to her daughter, I've been working with this lady and I feel like I've made some mistakes, and going forward, I'm not going to shout at you anymore. If I feel like I want to shout, I'm actually just going to walk away in order to control myself. And her daughter said, I'd really like that, Mum. She said, I'll try too. And I saw her 2 weeks later, and that was one thing that she was working on. There's so much more. It was one thing, and she said her household was transformational with that one thing. Because her daughter, so what would happen the first 2-3 days is her daughter would really shout at her still, and she wouldn't. And then her daughter realised that actually,
what am I doing?
Yeah. But but the thing is, it's easy to slip back in. That's something to be really conscious of. It's very easy when you've been doing it for so long, 14 years, to then change in 6 months when it doesn't go right. It's still so in you. You've got to keep yourself totally on track. So, I don't know whether it's post-it notes around the house saying what your mantras are, what your beliefs are, whether it's checking in on yourself on a daily basis, maybe writing a journal of where you're at.
Morning intentions and stuff. Yeah.
But it's so easy to drop back in. That with probably eating and physical health.
There's some amazing tools you can add, like breath work and stuff like that for your clients, I think.
Yeah.
They're amazing, right?
Yeah. I do a lot of breathing.
Give them the time out step, right? And they go and sit on the step. The parents do the breath work.
The parents do have a time out space. Yeah, where you do go. So my place, I put my 2 arms over my kitchen sink, lean over my sink, look into my garden and just breathe. That's what I do when I'm like, Josie, calm down.
Yeah, mine's outside the door. So because I always think of what I'm inheriting on the trip home as well, because I get on the tube, and the tube, I'm pretty open. So I honestly, I feel all that crap going on in the tube. I can see it, I can feel it, the tension everyone's experiencing, and I come off there and I'm walking up the road, and I have to kind of have a bit of a shake off, and then I get to the door, and then I do breath work before I get in the house. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm just, what energy am I actually bringing into the house, right?
100% agree with that.
But also for that, imagine that relationship, the mother and the daughter. Who else is in that house? Is it a big family?
She's got a younger child who's 9 and who's a son.
There you go, transformative for everyone, right? Imagine being around that while that's going on, right?
Yeah, and the husband who doesn't know how to support his wife.
Yeah, because he's probably like, wow, okay. Yeah. He's not in there with it.
No. But yeah, so, and interestingly, when we were there, she had some text messages on the phone to her daughter, from her daughter, and her daughter was saying, I don't love you, you don't love me, you're so unkind to me. And it was because she'd made her daughter walk to school that day, but her daughter said she had a sore hip. But she took that, and her mum, she took it really, really badly, the daughter.
Yeah.
And then she said, well, what do I reply to this? She's just massively insulted me. So when your child insults you, I love it if my children insult me, because to me, it is so obvious what they're trying to say. It's like they couldn't be more obvious. So I am hurting, so I'm going to hurt you. Literally, it doesn't hurt me at all. So then we know, I know my child.
Good tool to have that.
It's brilliant. I mean, literally, it identifies the problem immediately for me. So I'm like, right, that's fast track 10 minutes of me trying to work out what's going on. Great. So I know that you're hurting, so you're trying to hurt me.
You're hurting, you're trying to hurt me. Yeah. I like that.
And it doesn't just have to be hurting from you. So it could be something that's happened from someone else. Someone else hurt them in the morning. They've held it, and then you're the person they're hurting at the end of the day. It's not about you. This is what we have as parents. We think it's all about us. Nothing to do with you. Your child's feeling. You don't know where the feelings come from. Let's try and help them work out. And you're there. I'm just going to throw it all on you. So that's why I say the first 40 minutes when your child comes. To help navigate
the feeling. They're looking at you for the help. Right?
Yeah. Or help me. I've got this hurt, this pain. Throwing it out. So the first 40 minutes after you've collected your child from school, you ignore all misbehaviour. 40 minutes. Any back chat, any rudeness, any stomping, flicking their sibling. 40 minutes. You've just got to let them breathe. You've got to let them come out of them. You've got to let them be still. You've got to let their head...
Is it good just get straight to an open space and let them run wild?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
You absolutely try and let them be free.
Especially if you're in an urban environment, school,
or
in a city.
Sitting in a chair all day.
And they don't have any outdoor space, any nature space.
Yeah.
It's still just a concrete space.
Yeah.
Yeah, figure out your route, get to a park, get outside, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely what you say. So, I know you, we're sitting on these cushions because chairs aren't the thing, but my oldest struggles with that because she is so tall. So she's 9, but she's the size of a 12-year-old. She's an athlete, she's very strong. She likes to stretch all the time. She's a real sort of pulley arms, stretchy sort of person. So as soon as she comes out of school, she literally prances up the road, like legs out, arms out, prances up the road.
Get out the cage.
Yeah, and it's like being a caged animal out the cage, exactly what I say. It really irritates me. She prances down the road because I'd just like it if she just walked next to me really quietly. It'd be really nice if she did that. Yeah. But that's my story. That's what I would like as a mum to say. I can see where all my children are, but I don't believe that. I want her to be free. I like that she does that. It's irritating. So what do? I don't tell her to stop. I say, right, where are we going to prance? Which is why we often go to the park after school. Let's go and prance. Or we go home and my kids will always be in the garden. Always. No shoes. I mean, we have all sorts of funny attire in the garden. There's no weather conditions. I have no there's no shoes outside. There's no clothes that are required outside. You just be as you want to be. If they're cold, they'll get clothes. And if they're not, my daughter spent the snow in her swimming costume in the garden. But
that's their lunchbox decision, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't bother me. That's an unnecessary rule and boundary to put in as a parent just to be telling and controlling. It's better to be the least controlling as you can be, because it also makes your life easier as a parent. There's less things to manage and tell and control. Much easier that way.
No one likes being controlled, right?
No, I don't.
When's the next workshop?
Next workshop is 1st of May. It's a preschooler workshop for 3 weeks. That's in Windsor. And then I've got one after that, an advanced workshop, then another one after that for solving common parenting challenges. Then another one.
What day is that?
Don't know.
Not sure when this is going to go out. Is this going to just be out by the 1st of May? Bit of pressure there. I
can tell. So the 1st of May is the preschooler one.
Let's get the diary out.
Sorry.
Let's have a look.
Should I know this?
Going on?
My solving common parenting problems is March the 5th for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then I've got another preschooler workshop. Preschool workshop in May. Solving common parenting problems, July the 2nd. Sorry guys, I'm on the wrong month.
But that's all. Is this all on your website?
All on my website, and I've got a working parents one coming out, and hopefully November time online group coaching, which I'm excited about.
Online group coaching.
Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds good. And obviously my one-to-one.
Is that like a live thing you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So I do a live one and then I'll do a pre-recorded one on all different topics. I'm excited about that.
Okay, so website, what are you? www.positiveparentingjosie.com.
Positive Parenting with Josie.
With Josie.com.
Yeah.
Positive
And I'm
Parenting
also on
with
Instagram
Josie.
and Facebook.
And that's the same?
Yes.
At Positive Parenting with Josie.
Yeah.
Cool.